you came here because you want to remove your negative items from your credit report and increase credit scores or that of your clients. As you can see in my playlist here, hundreds of deletions and score increases right on YouTube. That is exactly what I do. And we're starting with something simple. Okay. So, how to write the perfect dispute letter. Complete these 3 things. We have the paragraph, the dispute reason, and a closing. If you travel back to 2017 and 2015, I have videos and even a couple of paid webinars that explain that this is Sesame Street simple. Nothing is complicated. So we can write a dispute letter by answering a few questions. Why are you writing to the credit bureaus? What do you want them to do? Did you dispute before and receive a response? If not, it's recommended to complete a sentence relating to their failure to respond within 30 days. You always need to ask for a new credit report showing changes. I found a few inaccuracies on the following accounts, and these need to be removed. Please send me a new credit report reflecting these changes. If I had disputed before and they had not responded, or there was a specific violation, I could put it here before it says, please send me a new credit report reflecting these changes. I received my credit report online with Identity IQ and noticed fraudulent reporting and inaccuracies that require your attention and deletion. I did send a dispute letter last month and no response was received within the 30-day required timing. Please remove the following accounts and send me a new credit report. I had previously disputed and did not receive a response and asked for a new credit report. So many people get this confused that, you have to include all these laws. Not with this. You can say remove these inaccuracies and list your accounts. It's as simple as that. We put our dispute reasons, our one-line closing, and that's it. Now that you know that way to write the initial paragraph, let's talk about the thing that removes the accounts, and that's the dispute reason. The Gerald formula allows a repeatable way, no matter what you're disputing, collections, charge-offs, repos, foreclosures, bankruptcy judgments, tax liens, to take the information from your credit report and generate an actual dispute reason. Okay, I can literally look at any part of this credit report and create a dispute reason with this formula. So it includes action, like delete or correct. Justifier is the word because. Element is the thing you're disputing for removing late payments. Here I have the definitions. We have a word bank as well. Instead of delete, we can say remove, correct, update. Use inaccuracy, violation, false reporting, fraudulent reporting. Instead of account, say charge off, inquiry, collection, bankruptcy, late payment. Example, delete this charge off for a violation because the monthly payment reports on a closed account in the amount of $15. Why? Because a closed account should not have a monthly payment. Remove the late payments because Experian reports January 2020 as 30 days late. Equifax reports paid on time, and TransUnion reports no payment history. When you're looking at the dispute letter structure, it's going to look like this: your name, date of birth, social, address, today's date, bureau name and address, your why paragraph, your disputed accounts and reasons, your one-line closing, and your name. You have the link to this. You can actually use this to write out your own version, your first paragraph, your dispute reasons, letter closing, and that's it. Save it. Type in your email and sign up to receive more. It's straightforward. Once you have the formula, you can take all of the information and plug it into that formula, and it's going to tell you the actual answer, right? So if we know that, I'm not even going to give you a math equation, but you can take, the numbers, plug it into your math equation, because your formula tells you the way to solve it. Now you can use it repeatedly for any numbers. The samurai method is what I showed you. You can check this out yourself, and it goes more into the perfect dispute reason. You will want to use Smart Credit or Identity IQ. The samurai method is the action, justifier, element, reason, outcome. So part 1 goes more into the reasoning as to why we're using this. Part 2 explains because. Part 3 gives a list of things you can dispute, like date last paid, notice of dispute, first day of delinquency, reported, date last active, payment history, balance past due, high balance, open date, status, type, and terms. Each of these depends on the type of inaccuracy and whether there's a violation. We can't simply state the account is accurate, nor can we only state a specific part of the account is inaccurate. We must state the account is inaccurate or in violation and the part of the account in dispute and the facts that support this to demand as evident in the credit report. You can see this with any dispute reason I write. Now, part 4, we're just supporting it with facts. You have to include every single part. If we're looking at late payments, date last paid, or notice of dispute, we need a reason why a charge off needs to be removed. Where do we get this information from? We get it from the credit report. This one on the screen is a positive account, and I wouldn't have deleted that. But if we found a negative account like this one, we can see that these two bureaus never updated this account, even though it was disputed. So where are we getting this information from? We're getting it from the credit report. If you look at monthly payment, this account is closed, paid, right? It still shows $183 in the monthly payment. As you can see, there's sometimes that you're going to use, date last paid, sometimes that you're going to use, the payment history, because there's nothing other than 120 days late. And then sometimes we're really going to have to get creative, right? But everything you need is on the credit report. Don't randomly choose something to dispute. If you do that, you end up with a dispute reason that makes no sense. Let's jump past this. You already know the structure, and we have some dispute reason examples. Understand the samurai method, understand the Gerald method, how to create that formula to remove negative items. Looking at how to write a dispute reason. The completed example is delete this account for inaccuracy because the date last active reports 1/21 on Experian, 2/22 on Equifax, 3/2019 on TransUnion. How did we create that? Multiple things could be disputed. We have our action, delete, correct, remove, update. We have our item type, account, inquiry, public record, personal information. We have our dispute type, inaccuracy, violation, missing information. We have our justifier because. Then the thing we are disputing, date last active, date last paid, date last reported, notice of dispute, first stage delinquency, monthly payment, payment history, high balance, past due, open date, type, terms, balance, etc. Use shows, reports, lists, reflects, whatever word you want to, and then all you're doing is plugging in the facts. That is it. Okay. So one thing that you want to do is you want to analyze your report, find inaccuracies on each account, and put all inaccuracies through the hierarchy. The inverted dispute reason pyramid is the hierarchy. We have things that are more important than the other, and this is one of the most important things you're going to see or use, and I need you to pay attention. Our biggest ammo is rounds 1 through 5. We have date last paid, notice of dispute, charge-offs, monthly payments, collections. For charge-offs, monthly payments on a charge-off, collections, lates, and past dues, status, update, date reported. If you disputed something and the bureaus did not update this date last reported, you're going to see that on Identity IQ where it says, I believe last reported right here, 3/2020 and 3/2020. It means they did not investigate. Your backup rounds are balance. I would put payment history in the biggest ammo depending on what you are disputing. High balance, past due, method of verification, transferred, sold, and on collections, a limit. Last resort stuff, open date, type, terms, comments, notice of dispute, status detail, pay account, limit, and account number. Those things are not going to remove your negatives. The things that are going to remove your negatives are at the top. Put your stuff through the hierarchy, take that number one inaccuracy or violation, and list the reason why it is inaccurate or in violation. Fill out the facts section of this chart. Fill out the rest of the chart left to right, write out the dispute reason, and add it to your dispute letter. That is how we create this dispute reason, by extracting the facts. I found the things that didn't belong. I'm disputing the date last active, although now I would actually dispute the date last paid instead of the date last active. And then I'm telling them I want them to delete this account for inaccuracy. Okay. So that is as simple as it gets. So now let's go deeper. When disputing, locate all derogatory accounts, locate all the inaccuracies for each account, create a dispute reason for the number one inaccuracy at the top of the hierarchy, and then compose your dispute letter. Include the number one reason for each account. Include the reason why you're writing the letter, just as I showed you. Send out your dispute. Remove instances of pursuant to, my intention, litigation, CC attorney, and anything that makes it look like you are a credit repair company or that you're not an authentic consumer requiring assistance. There's a specific form you need notarized and sent. So this is a notarized identity verification form. You need to go to either do this online, and I can give you a link if you need it, but you need to go and get this notarized for free at your local bank or credit union or online for $25. You're going to need your ID, and they are going to prove that this is you, and it's going to be notarized. You're going to send this with every single letter that you send, okay? And this all has to do with the stall tactics, all right? And I mentioned that because of the part where I said that you need to make sure that they know you're an authentic consumer requiring assistance. If the credit bureaus think that it is a credit repair company disputing, they will literally ignore you, okay? So your end letter should look like this: your personal information, the date, the bureau you're disputing, your one line or couple sentences for your why paragraph, and then for the actual accounts, you have the creditor name, account number, and your full dispute reason. We're going to do this for every account. And then a one-line closing like, thank you for your expedited attention. Thank you for your help. Send me a new credit report. Do not sign your letter. I've seen where a signature from a letter ends up on a contract that someone did not sign. You'll need to include your ID and proof of address. I used to also send social security card or W-2, but I mean, if you really want to limit how much information that they have, then it does need to be ID and proof of address. What is proof of address? Utility bill, pay stub, bank statement, things like that. Okay, let's move on. Disputes, you know, are structure, right? If you look right here at this structure on the left, you're going to see just the skeleton, right? Name, address, date of birth, blah, blah, blah. If I put in actual information, you would see my name, address, date of birth, social, the date, the bureau. These accounts are inaccurate, blah, blah. My accounts, thank you, my name. It has a simple structure. I call it lo-fi disputes. Wow. This is the exact structure I use for every letter unless I'm using Metro 2. Charge-offs are specific in the way we dispute them. All right, let me move over a little. So you don't overthink this. Put your dispute letter together and include all required items. Make sure that if you have violations, you can prove your violations. Take a screenshot of your account on your credit report and include it as an exhibit. Reference that exhibit. Look at the entire account, different balances or dates between all three bureaus. Start there. Look at the payment history. Charge off for more than 1 month or late payments after the account was closed. Start there. Look at the date last active and date last paid. Different dates by years. Start there. Was it disputed before? Check the comment section for the notice. If missing, start there. If you dispute, they're required to put that notice of dispute within 30 days. Notice of dispute was not entered within 30 days of receipt. Delete for violation of Section 623. Now, guaranteed deletion debt validation dispute method in detail. Date last reported. If you disputed and they did not update that date, they did not do an investigation, even though they said it was verified. We have examples of date last paid being re-aged. You could see in this one where it says date last paid. You'll notice that this one, date last paid, shows 11/20 and 9/16. That means that TransUnion and Experian illegally re-aged the date last paid. Your next steps are obvious. Create your dispute letter, back it up with the facts, and I promise you, you are going to get results doing it this way. So many people get stuck on, what do I do now that I did round one? You're going to use this tactic to follow up on any round you send out. It's always going to be the same. This was a question that was posed to me in one of my comments. So the question is, what can I do if round one was a factual dispute with inaccuracies and the accounts came back as verified or updated? For round two, do we state the same thing again? The answer is no. You should never send the same thing. Round one, begin with the blatant inaccuracies. For charge-offs, go after date last paid. If you're trying to remove late payments, I was not late on date. Why? Because they need to prove you were actually late. The only way they can do that is going to be to prove with bank statements that you did not pay on time, and they're never going to provide that information, okay? Lates for deletion, I was not late on date, and you do the same thing. If you're disputing third-party collections, I'm going to give you the way to remove them, but with the bureaus, this is unknown. You're putting that burden of proof on them. For collections that are debt buyer collections, check for payment history and past due. For round two, find a new dispute reason and go down the hierarchy. Here we are in Airtable. We have collections, charge-offs, late payments, bankruptcy, judgments, tax liens, identity theft, and inquiries. For collections, we start with the account is unknown. Remove this unknown collection. How did you verify this account, and where is the documentation that would prove this? Method of collection verification. What is the method used to verify this account? Furnish the signed contract or remove this account. The collector did not notify. Your reason would be the collector ignored my dispute. I did not send anything to verify. By not responding, agreed this is an unverifiable account. That's called estoppel by silence. And then we're not going to actually use section 609 because that actually has to do with pulling your credit report. Charge off. Date last active, start with date last paid. 3 different dates under the date of last activity, remove immediately and include dates. How is this account accurate when the date of last payment shows 3 different dates? Include dates. Method of verification. Proof of validation. Send proof of validation or remove for failure to perform a proper investigation. Stipulate date last reported shows that they never investigated. Late payments after close date. Violation for continued reporting of late payments after charge off. You're in violation by continuing to report this unverified and inaccurate account. Include the dates. Date of status. Shows you didn't investigate this account, remove immediately, and send proof you did an investigation. How is there a monthly payment reported on a closed account? And the balance at the bottom of the hierarchy with this one, you could say wrong balance. Same with past due. Let's go and get rid of these. Now let's go over to late payments. I was never late or paid on time. You didn't verify this late payment, remove it from my credit report. How did you verify this late payment? Send me the bank records and transaction documentation. You're required to have this documentation to determine accuracy. If you have been following my videos, you know they do not have any of this documentation, nor do they look at it. Their job is to just repeat what the creditor says. Send me proof that you did a proper independent investigation. What was the method of verification? Send proof of validation. There's a ton of other things that we can go after, but these are just to joggle your thought process. Okay, so for bankruptcy, invalid court name, invalid filing date. I have a couple of credit reports I want to show you. Let me pull this up and show you what you should be looking for on a bankruptcy to get it removed. All right, let's go back to Airtable. Invalid filing date. Include actual information from bankruptcy records. What was the method of verification when the courts do not provide documentation or verify? Furnish proof of validation. Send me a copy of the petition immediately. Due to the fact that you failed to verify, correct, or remove this account per FCRA requirements, remove this immediately. And you have proof they didn't validate because it's on your credit report. Section 603. I did not provide my permission for this account to report on my credit file pursuant to Section 603. You need to remove this immediately. Let's go over to tax lien. Filing date, court name, documentation. They're not going to have it. Wrong plaintiff and wrong balance. Failure to provide documentation. Proof of judgment investigation. Tax liens and judgments are easy to remove. Identity theft. The account is not mine. Send proof of ownership. You did not furnish documentation to prove that this actually belongs to me. Dispute with the creditors using 623 and make complaints with the CFPB, AG, BBB, FTC. Proof of investigation for identity theft. Where's the proof? Proof of verification. Proof of validation. The account is in violation and must be removed. Remember, back everything with the facts. Don't arbitrarily choose a dispute reason. For inquiries, remove because it's unknown. If you don't have proof of signature, this account must be removed. Verify the validity of this inquiry and dispute with the creditor. I disputed with the creditor and they didn't validate this inquiry. Remove it immediately. You stated that this was verified, so I need to see validation of this. Continuing to report this inquiry is in violation of my rights. Remove it immediately. And then we have complaints, and you can use Section 604. I created this a couple of years ago, and it is still valid now. When we get to the end of this, I am going to show you a very simple way of disputing, but let's keep moving. For round 2, find different things. If we started with date less paid, go to date less active. If you started with first day of delinquency, go to the second, go to the third. Find out whether the notice of dispute was entered. Lates for correction, ask for the supporting documentation. And the next late payment, go after that one. Lates for deletion, first day of delinquency. Creditor did not validate or respond, and proof of ownership. For debt buyer collections, go after the date last paid, not active. Now we're on notice of dispute. Let's go back. Late for correction, ask for the copy of the bank statement. For deletion, go after notice of dispute. You have 17 account elements to dispute. Remember the hierarchy: monthly payment, date less active, balance, date less paid, blah, blah, blah. Remember that when the bureau says something is verified, it's simply an opportunity to write a new letter and prove them wrong to get your deletion. The only way you lose is to give up and stop disputing. This is a game of inches. You gotta play the game. The best revenge is success. Dispute the right way, stay consistent and persistent, and you will see results. Scores will increase and lenders can't charge higher interest, all right? Let's go over when credit bureaus say something is verified as accurate or they don't respond. What to do when bureaus don't respond. Sometimes this means you did something wrong, but we need to find out the reason. Everything is in the report. I told you that. Was the notice of dispute entered? If it was not, by the 30th day after they received your dispute, send a new dispute requesting deletion pursuant to Section 623. If it did, the bureaus performed an investigation. If not, request deletion for failure to investigate. Do you see any inaccurate info? Check every disputed account for inaccuracies: the date last active, the date last paid, the date last reported, the notice of dispute, activity after the account was closed, date of first delinquency, payment history, monthly payment. Craft a dispute letter using the highest impact dispute reason and include facts from the credit report. Did anything change on that account? Check every disputed account for changed information and craft a new dispute based on the new info using a Top Gun dispute reason like date last paid. Now, if experience says we're not going to reinvestigate unless you provide additional documentation, new and relevant information is a new dispute reason. If nothing changed, do not redispute the same dispute reason. It will come back as frivolous. Ask for proof of investigation. If you're sending disputes certified but not receiving responses, demand proof of investigation. If you did not send disputes certified originally, send this round certified and ask for proof. Start making noise about the fact that no one is responding to you. And always remember, they are the ones that remove stuff, not the bureaus. Ask for documentation proving the data furnisher performed their responsibilities to begin with pursuant to Section 623. If they had investigated, so send a letter to the credit bureaus demanding deletion because you did not hear back. And if they had investigated and they did report accurately, they'd have no problem responding. Why should your rights be violated just because they don't want to do their job? If they are still not responding, submit a CFPB complaint against the bureaus, creditors, and the collectors. Include all your letter copies, credit reports, and a certified mail tracking and return receipt. Send a copy to all relevant parties and include a letter that demands deletion for violation and FCRA noncompliance of inaccurate data reported on the consumer report. Make complaints, BBB, FTC, bank complaints, all of that. Start your violation log. You can use something as simple as a Word doc. Let me see if I have one for you already. I did download it. It is in my downloads. Keep record of everything. If they responded, if they didn't, dates you sent it, when they sent back that return receipt signed, when you pulled your credit report, dates, you checked for the notice of dispute. This is filled out by you and it needs to go with your CFPB complaints and prove that they didn't do this. Everything I have, my credit reports, my disputes, these responses, it all backs up everything that I am saying. And you need to have them delete this because they're violating my rights. Let's go to the next one. When the credit bureaus say it's verified as accurate, what do? What could you have done differently? Write some reasons you think your dispute round did not work and what you could have done differently. A few reasons why it was verified. You used a template instead of writing your own. The bureaus use a system checking for text, phrasing, partial matches to other letters. If so, it's verified without investigation or tagged as frivolous. You didn't use the facts. Factual disputes take information the bureaus, the creditors, and collectors report against them. Each dispute letter includes facts directly from the credit report. It doesn't come from anywhere else. You committed credit repair suicide. This happens when you either file false identity theft or say it's not mine when it actually is. Each of these is a strategy against the credit bureaus when something is verified. Look for the notice of dispute. It is a required statement normally found in the comment section pursuant to Section 623. This statement is required within 30 days of the first receipt of your letter. If it's not present, it's a violation. Check for the date last reported to be updated. When the bureau is verified, if it still reports the same, no investigation took place. Find the next best dispute reason based on the facts. Only dispute something truly inaccurate, inconsistent, or in violation. And if you were ignored, you may redispute without coming back as frivolous. A dispute can only be frivolous, a factual one, if the data furnisher performed their duties, like I had mentioned correctly under Section 623. Challenge this. If they had done an investigation, why didn't you receive a response? Why did your disputes come back as verified? What was the main reason for your dispute? Were there changes between report 1 and report 2? This is important because it can show why it was verified. Was the dispute entered within 30 days? Did the date last reported change? Now, here's an example of a round 2 letter. Answer the most important questions from the checklist. An example, I disputed these accounts on date, and the notice of dispute was required to be entered by date plus 30, and it is still missing. This is a violation of Section 623 and requires deletion. I also see that the date last reported and the date last active now reflect the same dates, which means you re-aged account 1 and account 2. The dates last reported should reflect when you verified the account. The date last active should not have changed because no payment was made. Delete for violation. Reinvestigate the following accounts. Account number 1, 2, 3, 5, delete for violation. The account was illegally re-aged from original date last paid. Not date last active, date last paid. Account number 2, same reason. Account number 3, delete for violation of FCRA 623, failure to enter the required notice of dispute. Send me a new report reflecting these changes, your name. We included the facts, our why paragraph, our accounts. We even included our laws. Now, what to do when a deleted credit item is reinserted. Get a copy of this letter by going to resources on the right and clicking on reinserted account. What happens is you get an account removed, then it comes back on your credit report. Your work is not done. Monitor your credit reports in case the company reinserts a negative item. When you challenge derogatory, unsubstantiated, inaccurate items, the creditors and or credit bureau had 30 days to complete their investigation pursuant to your dispute. If the item cannot be verified within 30 days, they remove it. However, if the item is verified on day 31 or any day afterwards, the creditor can re-report and the credit bureau can reinsert the item on your credit reports. If a previously removed item is reinserted, FCRA requires the credit bureaus to notify you no later than 5 business days after the date of reinsertion. This is a requirement, is rarely followed. The creditor who reinserts the item must certify the information is correct. And this comes from FCRA 611A5B2. Notice to consumer: if any information that has been deleted from a consumer's file pursuant to subparagraph A is reinserted in the file, the consumer reporting agencies shall notify the consumer of the reinsertion in writing not later than 5 business days after the reinsertion, or if authorized by the consumer for that purpose by any other means, such as email or through your attorney. Opt out of Credit Karma, Experian.com, Equifax.com. If you find a previously deleted item reinserted without notification, you can send the following letter. See resources. Method of verification: you were taught this is the proper letter. This is not the proper letter. The letter that you want to send is this one. So let's look at the difference. This one says, on date, I requested you send me the name and address of the furnisher of information who helped verify the public record filed was accurate. You have not provided the contact information required. Mine says, I sent a dispute letter last month requesting that you remove the following inaccurate accounts or that you update the inaccurate information, whichever is relevant, and it was ignored. I would like to know what your method of verification was, as well as the documentation that you have to prove you performed an independent investigation. Where's the proof? Why can't you send it? I'm redisputing these accounts and including my previous dispute letter. Please send me a new credit report. Thank you. Your name. This is the guaranteed deletion debt validation dispute method. So let me open these. We're going to start with this one, and I will close it when done. I don't want to have too many windows open. I'm actually going to close this one and I'm going to close this one. All right. The guaranteed deletion debt validation dispute method. This is part 1, and you can click on part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on this side. And when you get to part 6, you will find additional resources such as the actual dispute letters that go with this method. All right. This is, basically, as it says, guaranteed deletion debt validation dispute method. This is what I use to remove all third-party accounts. We are going to go step by step through this because it is that important. There are 2 specific laws on your side. They're hidden in hundreds of pages of legal mumbo jumbo in 2 documents called the FCRA and the FDCPA. So let's go down to the actual laws. Responsibilities of furnishers of information to consumer reporting agencies. Duty to provide notice of dispute. If the completeness or accuracy of any information furnished by any person to any consumer reporting agency is disputed by a consumer, the person may not furnish information to any consumer reporting agency without notice. Information is disputed by the consumer. FDCPA Section 807(8). False or misleading representations, communicating or threatening to communicate credit information known or should be known to be false, including failure to communicate the disputed debt. My advice is not to read the FCRA, FDCPA unless you want to be bored out of your mind for several hours. If you do, you'll notice other laws that could potentially help you. These are the only 2 I use for collectors, and they work great. So let's go to part 2. So part 2. Let's start with FDCPA 807(8). This law deals with banks, credit card companies, and collection agencies. They're required to contact the credit bureaus and add a sentence to your credit report within 30 days that says that you disputed the negative item. The sentence would appear like consumer disputed validity of this item, consumer disputes. They almost never add the sentence. Over 90% of the time, they will not do it, and certainly not in time. Sometimes they do it in 60 days, sometimes 45, sometimes 31, but that's too bad for them because by law, it must be 30 days. We're going to prove they didn't do it within 30 days, and they will be liable for damages up to $1,000 per occurrence. You're allowed to dispute anything on your credit report. It doesn't matter if it's true and accurate. The responsibility is on the creditor to maintain accurate records and follow the law within the required timeframes. We're going to be asking some hard questions and requesting specific information such as copies of your cash check showing you paid for late. Sometimes we will require the creditor provide a copy of the contract you physically signed. For a contract to be legal, it needs to be signed by 2 parties. You go to the bank, fill out an application, and then you fill out the contract. You sign it, but they never sign it. Why? Because they are just the company exchanging information. The place that holds it is the Federal Reserve. They hold the original contracts. It's never going to be with the data furnisher, and it's never going to have a wet signature for both parties, and therefore it's never a legal contract. Every contract you sign for credit is an illegal document. They're not going to have a copy of the contract you signed because that note sits with the Federal Reserve. They're never going to have it signed, and it's never going to show agreeing to their payment terms when the account was opened. No company has these records readily available, and they're never going to be able to get it from the Federal Reserve, especially within 30 days. Many credit card agreements were digitally signed through a website. It would be difficult for them to contact their IT department and produce evidence that you digitally signed something. Let's jump to part 3 while we wait for this to come up. This is FCRA AC 623 AC. This law requires the credit bureau to report that you disputed something on your credit report. After you contact them, they need to add the disputed sentence to your credit report. If a CRA notifies a furnisher that a consumer disputes the completeness or accuracy of information provided by the furnisher has a duty to follow certain procedures, and they must conduct an investigation. And you're going to want to go check out 623 B1A and B1B, report the results to the bureaus. If it establishes that something was, inaccurate or whatever, they need to delete it and notify the credit bureaus. And this is section 623 B1C and B1D. Complete the above steps within 30 days from the date the CRA receives the dispute, or 45 days if they provide additional information to the bureaus. Promptly modify, delete or block its reporting. The sentence would appear, again, consumer disputes of validity, and they almost never add this. The big key here is that the credit bureau is required to add that sentence to your credit report within 30 days that says that you've disputed an item. And 9 times out of 10, they will not do it in time, prove they didn't do it within 30 days, and they'll be liable for damages up to $1,000 per occurrence. What if you told them that they can keep that $1,000 and instead permanently remove your bad credit marks? They're going to remove it from your credit report. They don't want to pay you. They don't want to go on public record as having lost a court case to you. They don't want this publicized. They don't want to send out a legal team. All they have to do is have an employee remove the item from your credit report. Done deal. If the credit bureau or creditors play hardball, remind them how easy it is to put out a press release. Imagine how many new disputes they will get from thousands of people who read the press release. There's a specific way that you're actually going to handle this. We're going to be disputing with that third party debt collector first, before we dispute with the bureaus, because the bureaus are more likely to add the sentence to your credit report. If both the bureaus and the creditors who add the disputed sentence to your credit reports within the 30-day time frame, we have actually 2 other avenues. Keep in mind, this doesn't happen. Most people win. Why? While the creditor argued the debts were true, we argued that we weren't here to decide whether or not the debts were true. We're simply there because the creditor failed to abide by FDCPA section 807.8, and the judge agrees and the creditor loses. They have to prove or validate the debt. Let's go over to part 5. I'm going to pull up part 6 as well. We have some sample letters here. Fill out. The highlighted parts are going to be filled out by you. And part 6 is where you're also going to find extra validation of debt letters. There's a bunch of court cases you can check out, such as Stevenson versus TransUnion. You need to look at all of these letters and see how they work. This is the guaranteed deletion debt validation dispute method. Send all of these letters certified mail with a return receipt, sometimes priority, not just certified mail, but that's a different video. This is very important because we need to nail the credit bureaus and creditors to that 30-day time frame required by law. As soon as they sign for your letters, that 30-day clock starts ticking. You need a receipt on day 31. Print out a new copy of your credit reports. They will be time and date stamped. This is all the evidence you need. Even if they add the sentence the next day, they've already broken the law. On the letters, it's highlighted, very simple. Do not sign any of your letters. You do not want your signature being compared and used against you if they find your original contract. Let's move on. We have the inverted dispute pyramid. Keep in mind, it's not just the bureaus that you can go after. You can go bureaus, creditors, collectors. You can make complaints with the CFPB, the AG, the BBB, the FTC. You can make bank complaints. It's called the squeaky wheel method. Here's something easy to understand that you have a lot to use and go after. So if we started with round 1 with date last active, it would actually be date last paid. If they said that it was verified, now go to payment history. If they said it was verified, go to date last reported. If they said it was verified, go to first day of delinquency. Just as I showed on that organization chart, you have a lot to work with. If they don't respond, now do the same thing. Go to that next inaccuracy or violation. If again, no response, ask for method of verification plus facts. Still no response, request independent investigation and include your facts. No response, go after the notice of dispute violation. If they say they don't understand, it's just all tactic. Restate and send a copy of your credit report. If they say they won't reinvestigate, find new and relevant information. If they say contact the creditor, use Cushman versus TransUnion from 1997, the burden of proof is on them. If they say we already verified, FCRA requires they reinvestigate, especially if you are disputing using factual disputes. A round 2 tactic would be Joe the plumber. Hey, I'm trying to fix my credit. I need your help. Round 3 tactic, squeaky wheel. Go after everything. Round 4 tactic, creditor and collectors did not validate or respond. Round 5 tactic, the CFPB complaint. Point out facts. We need your credit reports, certified mail and return receipt. Monthly payment on a closed account should not be past due. On a collection should not be late payments on a collection, and past due, if it's on a charge off and it says transferred, it should not be past due on the original account. Balance transferred should not be on the original account. Only the new collection agency or creditor, they can report a balance and a past due. If the date last paid is different, it needs to be the same. High balance on charge-offs. Balance on charge-offs should be lower than or equal to the balance. High balance should be the same on all 3 bureaus. The court name on a bankruptcy should be the actual name. The filing date should be the same on all 3 bureaus. And Only the account holder should report the balance. If you have two collections, both of them reporting the same account, same balance, that's double jeopardy. Notice of dispute, all accounts should be entered by the 30th day after the first dispute was received. And dispute timing, the bureaus did have 45 days instead of 30 days because of the pandemic. Late payments on all accounts should be consistent between all bureaus. Navient is notorious for reporting 90-day lates with no prior late payments. This is not accurate. It should be 30, 60, 90 days late. I'm specifically looking for the ones that I actually uploaded while I was recording this. Okay, I'm going to show you what to look for a bankruptcy. All right. And we are at the end of this. I do have to get this actually posted so that you can access this at 8 p.m. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And there's one other thing that I want to show you. So bankruptcy, as you can see, the bankruptcy on this says U.S. Bankruptcy Court. It is missing the city and state. That is not accurate. U.S. BK, PT, CT, CO, Denver. It needs to say U.S. Bankruptcy Court, city, state. Federal is not the name of a court. All right, let's look at this one. When you're looking at your accounts, you need to be looking for specific things. Remember, I explained about looking at the hierarchy. If we're looking at this account, we're going to see last payment date. This account was illegally re-aged. It shows 12/22, 12/22, 4/2020. That means Experian and TransUnion illegally re-aged this account. If you look at a payment history, you see charge off. It should not report anything after this account was closed. This is what I'm talking about. When looking at your credit report, you need to be looking for things like this. Last payment date, 23, charge off. Same with this one, 2020-23. These are violations. I'm referring to different dates on the date last paid. Go through your credit report, and I want for you to take a look at every single thing on there and then put it through the hierarchy and see what you have to work with. All right. Same with late payments. So if each bureau is reporting something different, then we have an avenue of disputing. Like it should say April as the first delinquency. If we had different information, we would have something to dispute. That doesn't mean that we don't have something to dispute. It's just not that specific thing. I wasn't late on April 20, delete this account. Aging 2020, 2023. So every account, put it through that hierarchy. If you need help disputing, I have additional things for you to do. I created a simple Google Sheets tool to increase credit scores and remove negative items, import Identity IQ and Smart Credit Reports, choose your accounts from the dropdown, and it populates the creditor name, account number, and finds inaccuracies for you. So this last column shows two different dates. If I changed it from date last active to date last paid, it's going to reflect, the new information here. If I can go down to balance, this is the easy way to find different information. I mean, it's really, really simple. There's very clear instruction on here. It tells you step 1, add your personal information. Step 2, choose the bureaus you want to dispute. Step 3, choose a dispute letter. And there's tons and tons and tons of dispute letters in here. This is called live automation. I built on Google Sheets. Very simple. But it does more than all of these other, credit repair softwares on the market. And you can even dispute manually. Put the creditor name, account number, choose a dispute reason, or add your own. Use a built-in reason and back it with the facts from your credit report. So if you want an easy, manageable way of disputing and pop out disputes in just seconds, then go check out live automation. It's sendme2.co/shop.auto. But I'm going to put it on the PDF that I send to you that has all of these links. But that is it. 1 hour is enough. If you have questions, hit me up on the chat. I would be happy to help. If you want to see if I can do a credit sweep for you, head over to my740.com and schedule a call.